This is a talk that is particularly helpful for youth that I think is most applicable until around the age of 24. I choose 24 because by 25, most people have already had enough dating experiences or simply know themselves well enough to know what they want when they're looking for their partners. So looks aren't everything. This phrase may sound cliche or obvious to some, but the truth is we still fall victim to it, to looks and to physical qualities, and to the habit of not really thinking things over with our first few dating partners. And I think this poses a great issue, a really big problem, because I don't think it's necessary to have to learn things the hard way in life. I think it's better to learn from other people because everyone makes the same mistakes over and over again. Or I should say that groups of people tend to make the same mistake. So you can always learn from someone who came before you. So the truth is, many young people and even a lot of adults overlook this idea. And yet the most common reason we struggle in relationships so much and so often is because we don't really know what we want, aside from what meets the eye and pleases the senses. So when we're young, everything seems new and exciting to us, so we tend to be enticed by a lot of things that may or may not actually be very enjoyable in the end. The same is true when we're just starting to become active in the dating world. If you've ever discovered in high school that someone had a crush on you, and then you just immediately took the opportunity to flirt and date this reasonably attractive person just because they were the only person around and it seemed like this good opportunity, but without considering how compatible you two are with each other, then you know what it's like to jump into a relationship blindly. It doesn't always turn out well. In fact, one of the most common things that happens is that we end up lacking a sincere interest in one another, as friends, as people, and so we don't really care about each other or about our lives, each other's lives and the things that's going on. Not so much past the superficial things like the appearance and the sound of the person's voice and the way they laugh and their charisma. And therefore, we don't have a genuine connection. And this can pose a lot of problems in the near future of this kind of relationship. I can't think of many people from high school who've never made this mistake at least once. Almost all of us do it because of how new and exciting and novel it is to become romantic and sexual with someone for the first time. Even my 60-year-old mom had admitted at one point that she couldn't believe she dated the past couple of men without considering their personalities and compatibility, especially. So this was only, within months or years of being 60. So among the list of things that Rod Stewart wishes he knew back then, what he knows now, dating the wrong person is close to the top of the list. Whether you're new to dating or have just been struggling and questioning your partner paradigm, save yourself months or possibly years of time, as well as the emotional baggage, and become clear about what you really want. And the way to do this is very personal. Everyone is different. But that's the key. We all look for very particular things in our partners. Some of us are very picky. Others are more reasonable. And I would say realistic. It's good to be selective, but there's a threshold for everything. There's a point where being too picky is unreasonable and it's not realistic. It's not possible. And being too easy with people Indiscriminative also leads to what I've been mentioning just moments ago, which is just dissatisfaction and problems. So what I'm suggesting to you is to contemplate a little deeper this time, especially if you're more experienced but have been matching yourself with the wrong people. Because when you consider this question, you may discover that the answer is surprisingly important to you. And you may have heard the mentioning of core values. When people talk about their relationships, sometimes they say that the core values aren't matching, or they are matching. They have the same, so-and-so has the same core values. This is one thing I'm talking about. That's something I'm including in this talk here. So here's my philosophy. As long as the two of you have a sincere interest in each other as friends, because a lover is a type of friend, right? Whether the two of you are just seeing each other or partnered as a couple, you have an ethical relationship. It may not continue this way after the relationship, but at least when you're dating, you two have a connection. Now, I had a friend from a few years back who felt that people should only date each other if they're best friends. Otherwise, there's no point and the connection would be weak. And I understood their philosophy, but I personally find this idea to be a bit extreme. So I'm suggesting you a similar idea, which is, my point is, it's not good to use people for romance and sex if you don't care about the actual person behind the skin and the charisma. That person could be a friend with an interesting life, agreeable beliefs, similar values, core values, similar taste in music, art, fashion, similar interests, and similar hobbies. So think of the possibilities. This is what I'm encouraging. I mean, sure, maybe you can connect with anyone if you spend enough time with them, but it might just be a lot better when you really choose the right person. So one of the big questions is, in spite of their attractiveness and charm, does the person in question have anything in common with you? If not, is it okay that they don't? Are you really okay with the fact that this person may not be a very good match? All you may be doing with this person is talking about really mundane, everyday, frivolous things at dinner, just so you can go home and have sex and snuggle and watch a movie together. And what about core values? What are the things that matter most to you? Does this person have any similar core values? At least one out of a handful. Something to think about, something to consider. Because essentially, what I mentioned earlier is that if you don't have an interest in the person beyond the superficial, then basically, essentially you're using the person, or they're using you. Well, rather, in your case, in your side of the story, if you're not interested, if you're really not interested in the other aspects of this person, what's going on in their life and their family life, if you have no interest in their interests and what they're talking about is really boring and somehow you're just captivated by their looks or something, then basically they say that we're using the person for the superficial or the sensual things. We're using them for the romance. We're using them for sex. Or basically, another way to put it is we're only seeing them because of those things, those superficial things. It just means that we don't really care about the person And we're not really close friends with them. We're lovers. You would be lovers in this case, but it's very superficial connection. And it really doesn't make a lot of sense when you look at who you are and who they are as people, and you forget about each other's appearance traits. And if you can just contrast yourself and the other person without any visualization of what you two look like, and you see on paper your biography and you think about, imagine what your biographies would look like and sound like, and your backgrounds. If you could read your background and read theirs and compare them, it would be so different. And yet we feel so connected to people just because of the surface level things. So please consider this talk. I want to save a lot of people a lot of time and a lot of emotional pain with these kinds of lectures. Inferential peace.